I was standing in line in the Harrisburg Airport at a United gate, waiting for my flight a few weeks ago to Chicago, and I noticed these characters in front of me, and they were all kind of together, but loosely together. But they had these brief conversations with each other. They wore very dark clothing. They're all kind of dressed the same, very dark clothing, and a lot of tattoos and piercings and things. And I looked at them, and I thought immediately two things. This is some kind of band, and music band. And my second thought was, there's an aura of darkness around them. Like my spirit just felt heavy darkness with them. And I was kind of grieved in my spirit as I just watched them. They didn't smile, they didn't laugh. Later I found out they had just come in from Rock Lidditz, and they were going to Chicago to something called the Riot Fest. And I don't know what that is, but it didn't sound good. And I was going to work with our Dove Church in Chicago. So I thought, how do I interact with these guys? What do I do? And who are they? Well, I'd seen another man earlier look at the one guy and say something and then smile really big, kind of like he recognized him. And so I went over to him and I said, "Who are these guys? Who is this?" I said, "They're a band." He goes, "Yes, they're a band." I said, "Well, who is the band?" He goes, "They're the band Slayer." You're just shaking your head. I didn't know who the band Slayer was, but apparently they've been a rock band for decades, and they kind of came in with that AC/DC and Kiss and all of them, and they did a lot of satanic music. It's kind of their genre, that metal. But I just kept thinking about this darkness. There's just such darkness around these guys, and I said to my oldest son, who was in a band for years, a godly band, but I said, "Do you know the band Slayer?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, they're standing in front of me," and he says, "Get a picture." And I'm like, "I'm not sure I want a picture, you know." But anyways, here are the two guys that were willing to get a picture with me. In case you're wondering, I'm in the middle. So they look extremely happy, right? I was like, I'm thinking while I'm smiling there, I'm laying hands on Slayer, right? Yep. I thought, you know what? I'm not going to keep my hands off of them because they can't give me anything, but I got a lot to give them. So I put my hands in the middle of their backs like a dad, and just smiled. And I mean, I can't imagine how often they're asked to do this, and just how old that must get. But they were obliging. So thank you. That's enough of Slayer. So you're wondering, well, what's that have to do with my topic on fighting freedom and pornography? Well, we're talking about presence, passion, power, and now pornography. One more P. Pornography is a place of darkness. And if you choose to go there, you make a choice to live like Slayer and live in darkness. I mean, it just was all over them. I just don't know how to describe it. Mim said last night so well, we carry a presence, we carry a life, we carry a light. And that's what I want to carry. I want to be an attractant. It's why I use I trout fish, and I use lures only. I only use lures when I trout fish. And we're to be fishers of men, but here's the connection. Lures are alluring. And the trout think there's something that they're not. And so I want to be a fisher of men. I want to be alluring. I want to be like that shiny lure that attracts darkness to it so that I can speak to it. So I'm standing there praying and saying, God, I pray that one of them sits beside me, that I get a seatmate with one of these guys. And unfortunately, they were all in first class, and I didn't get to sit with any of them. As leaders, your level of sexual purity directly connects to who you are in Christ and to your destiny in Christ and to the level of leadership you will reach. Engaging in pornography is engaging in sexual immorality. It's choosing to engage in sexual immorality. It's us engaging with darkness, like literally saying, darkness, come here. It's an invitation. It is dishonoring to yourself. It's dishonoring to your marriage. It's dishonoring to your children. I had a drug addict tell me one time, my children will never know I'm a heroin user. And I said, oh, they'll know. They will know. They may not see you use, but there are so many indicators in your marriage and in your family and the way you live your life and the fact that you're not here a lot or you're just zoned out because you just got high. They know. In 2023, there was a nationwide church-based study. Now, don't ask me if it was evangelical or what, I don't know. But they found in this church-based study, 65% of men, 57% of pastors, 57% of women and young girls, and 85% of 11 to 17-year-old boys were actively engaged in viewing pornography. Now, that's nothing compared to the world statistics. With men in the world that don't have this boundary of Christ, it's 88 to 97% are involved in pornography. This blows me away, 83% of women. So the escalation of use occurs because we tell ourselves we're simply being entertained by something that God created. God created men, God created women, and God created sex. So we can tell ourselves those kind of lies. After all, this is all a part of God's creation. But the more pornography that we feed our brain, the more extreme pornography is needed for there to be an arousal. Now, how many of you, Nick told me at the Northeast, only Steve could say this, how many of you, and I'm going to say it now, how many of you have noticed the expansion of ED drugs being advertised on television? I mean, there's so many of them now. And the reason for that, it used to be because you were taking a medication that affected you, or you were elderly and it affected you, or whatever. But that's not the case now. These drugs are selling because young men are involved in pornography. And to have a sexual relationship with their young wife is like bad porn. And so they're selling these ED drugs like crazy to even Mary, as she was a nurse at her local doctor's office. They were handing it out to younger and younger and younger patients. So that the addiction is stealing from our generation. No woman, no wife can compete with the airbrushed images that are viewed or these videos that are seen. If you want to kill your marriage, viewing pornography is a good way to do it because your wife or your spouse, your husband, cannot compete with those images. Never be able to do that. It diminishes our level of trust within our marriages when we're engaged in pornography. Pornography will open doors that we don't want to open. So we want to keep those doors closed. But here's a simple truth about pornography. It's all fake. There's not one bit of it that's real. Well, what's real is now trafficked human beings are taken and are forced to be in these films. And some die because of it. The Gen Z, the millennial generation, are the highest users of pornography, and yet they're the ones that have it most on their heart to end human trafficking. So while they're viewing pornography, they're actually pursuing more human trafficking to be done to create these images for them. So I wrote a 23-page article that's on the Dove International website. I don't know, how many of you know that there are a lot of articles on that website? Like there's a whole area where it says articles, and then you can drop down and you can go to that page, and then you can look at all the different categories. Well, one of them is about relationships or whatever, and there's a 23-page article there on pornography. So if you want a lot more statistics and up-to-date information, that is there for you. But the USA team wanted me to take those 23 pages and initially said, Sarah Souder said, put it down into 3,000 words. Now, if you've ever written anything, to reduce it is very hard to do. So I enlisted help. After I got done cutting everything I thought I could cut, I still had probably 7,000 words. So I passed it around and said, can you help me cut some more out of this? And thankfully, Diane Omandi was very, very helpful with that. And we got it down to a compromise of 4,000 words. It's a compromise because it even extends to the back cover. So if you ever seen a book that the book extends to the back cover, that's not very normal. But we have one here for every one of you. And then for those of you that are lead elders or leaders in ministries, maybe men's ministry or whatever, we have like 400 more out there, and they're put together in packets of 20 or 25. And so, and the generosity of the USA department, we want to sow into your churches these booklets. And I know, well, even if everyone here gets one, you say, well, pornography is not my problem. Well, someone you know it is, and you could pass it on to them. But you read it first, okay? So we talk about, what is it? And we talk about a life that I interviewed who was into pornography severely. It goes, for some of these people, it goes to the point where they now act it out. And I remember reading the statistic about prostitutes where 80-some% of prostitutes said they heard from the person that was hiring them, I saw this in a video or I saw this online and this is what I want to do. So it's influencing our lives. So anyways, these will be free to you. And if you want to take a pile for your church, we want you to do that. If we run out, just let us know. We'll get them to you, okay? All right. They're going to pass them out to you now, to each one at the table, wherever those guys are. I think Chris and Ellis were going to pass them out. Thank you. So everybody will get one. But the rest are back on the book table right in front of the water fall. And you can pick them up there if you want a box supply. Okay?